All right, so what we're going to have here then is we are going to go ahead and scroll down if you need to, but we can see right here we've got our background color that's darker green. Let's go ahead, first things first, let's go ahead and add another solid color overlay. And this time the code, again, if you want to use the same color, we're going to go EF, and nope, sorry, E4FF04. Should be kind of like this neon yellowish color. We're going to go ahead and hit OK, and then we have this. We're going to highlight that layer mask. We're going to hit Command I to invert, and then with our brush, which we probably still have on, we are going to start to, which you can kind of resize that too a little bit, but we're just going to kind of almost a streak of light coming through. Eventually we're going to probably want to move our can closer to the center. And again, if we're, you can always hit X so black is on top, and we can start to try to create some other kind of streaks of that nature too, and just kind of, you can toggle back and forth. But once you kind of have it the way that you want it, maybe something like this. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to highlight this bottom layer. We're going to make a brand new layer, or Shift Command N if you like the shortcuts. And we want to use some sort of darker green color. So we can go ahead and click on this right here, our foreground swatch, and maybe we want like a darker green color, maybe this 204, 703. We can just even make sure that that is darker than our background color. Let's I don't know, it might not be that much darker, if at all. So yeah, so let's go with a darker color. Try this 152E02, and then now we can kind of start to add a little bit more. Maybe we want our opacity to be a little bit darker. Maybe we try 70, so we can kind of get a little bit more of that darker color in there. Just going to add a little bit of value shifts for the background, the darker color. After we are kind of done with that, and you can still go back to this and kind of mess around with, you know, how that is streaking in or anything like that too. Once you have it the way that you want it, we can go ahead and re-highlight this layer again. Let's hit D, so now we have black on top, and then we're just going to add a little bit of, so maybe this time we go back to like 50, and we are just going to add a little bit of some of that shadow there at the bottom, maybe kind of along the side. You can also, if you go too far, right, so like maybe this right here is a little bit too far, you can try hitting E, going to your eraser tool, because this is on its own separate layer. We can try to kind of mess around with that a little bit too. and see if that will work or not. So you're just kind of toggling back and forth between it until you kind of get it the way that you like. After you have your background kind of done, we can go ahead and we kind of have our light source coming from this side, so maybe we want a little bit darker shadows over here on some of these cans. And what we can do is we can add like a darker brown. So if we open up our can, and then let's say we go to like our top, and we go to our fill adjustment layer, solid color again, and maybe we type in like 434106, so something like that. We Option Command G, so it's clipped to this area, and then we highlight our layer mask, hit Command I, and then now we go back to our brush tool, white on top, and maybe we go back to like 40% opacity, and then we can start to try to kind of add some of that shadow there. And then from here we can hold Option we can hold Option and drag this down to like the next one, and then Option Command G, and then we might want to highlight this layer mask, delete it, and then add a new layer mask and invert it, and then we can kind of do that kind of same thing. So we can start to add some of these shadows here, and then we can hold Option, click on that fill adjustment layer and drag it down in between the middle and the bottom one, and then we can highlight that layer mask, delete it, and then add new layer mask, Option Command G to clip it, and then Command I to invert that, and then with white on top we can start to get some of these like shadows here. Another thing that we can do too is we can add a little bit of shadows underneath the can when we have it positioned, but also underneath these little sections that are cut. So if we wanted to add a shadow underneath the top of the can that would sit up here, we may want to go right here, highlight this layer, fill adjustment layer, and then either Shift Command N or click on the plus. We're going to create a new layer that's underneath the top section of the can. And this time we're going to use black on top. Probably these settings are fine, but one thing we want to try to do is paint like maybe a little bit of a shadow to see how it will paint beyond the can. So one thing you can do is hold Command, click on the thumbnail of the folder, strike that, So if we are here and we want to make sure that we aren't painting beyond our perimeter of our can, we just kind of want to be careful, maybe make our brush a little bit smaller and make sure that we can add some shadows underneath. So right here, if we get close to this edge of the can, then what we can do then is hold Command, click on the thumbnail of the middle section so we're not painting beyond that, and then we don't run into that issue. And then we can then you can hit Command D when you're done with that. And then we can kind of do that same thing right underneath here too. So underneath the middle section, but above the bottom section, we're going to go ahead and make another layer. We can hold Command and click on the thumbnail of that bottom layer. That way we're not painting outside of that perimeter. And then we can hit Command D and just kind of carefully try to add some of those shadows. To that also. So now we've got some more contrast. We've got some shadows that are helping the illusion of that can kind of sitting on top of the other sections. So let's go ahead and we want to grab the folder. So if we close that folder, you see the can, and then we want to hold Shift and then highlight that top fill adjustment layer. So just these three things, and then we want to hit Command G, and then we can now double click on there, maybe call this one Can Split. And then with that selected, we can hit Command T, so that way we have the ability to just move the whole thing at once without it getting a little bit weird on us. And then from here, we can highlight these three layers. So highlight those three, hit Command G, maybe we call this one BG for background, and we make a new layer above that. And then this is where we'll start to put maybe some of these shadows that we'll have for like the bottom of the can and other pieces of fruit that might come our way. So if we bring these back up to 100, we've got maybe our brush, maybe something like this, and then we just kind of click once with black, and we should have some sort of soft circle right there. And then we can hit Command T, and then if we hold Shift, we should be able to kind of squish this down, and then we can kind of move this around. You can hold Shift, you can squish the other side too, and kind of mess around with that, but then kind of get that shadow underneath the can so it looks like we have our kind of situation like this. So another nice little effect that can work well with this is adding almost like a little bit of a highlight right here. So adding like a little bit of a highlight. So if we have this color right here, so if we go to this background color and we go right here, we double click on this, and we have like, we just kind of hit Command C to copy that, and then we can go right up here to highlight this layer that we put the shadow on. We're going to hold Command, and we're going to add a new layer. underneath, and that should put it underneath this one. And then we're going to do that kind of same thing. We're going to click right here. We're going to hit Command V, so we have this lighter yellow. And then we are going to click once, and we're going to hit Command T. And this time we might make sure we're holding Shift, but we might want this to be like a little bit larger, so then we're kind of getting something like this. Again, hold Shift. You can kind of smush this around. If the shadow underneath seems like a little bit too dark now, one thing we can do is we can change the opacity of this layer. Maybe we change it down to like 50, or if that's too light, maybe like 80, so it's not as harsh. And we can also still hit Command T and maybe try to mess around with the size of that one too, and just kind of get that where we want it to be.